Hello everyone and welcome back to Almost There, a twisted tale novel here on Disney Magic Zach. This is chapter 43. So let's get into it. Tiana was out of breath by the time she reached Treme. Still, a cry of relief broke free as the supper club came into view. She needed to be there. Even though the thought of having to get through an entire dinner service, cooking, entertaining patrons, clean up after all was done, made her want to collapse. She needed the comfort of the place she and her daddy had built. She cut through the alley that led to the back entrance of the sub club, but before she entered, China took a moment to collect herself. A jagged, painful sense of betrayal threatened to overwhelm her at the thought of Miss Rosa Lande, lying to her all this time. She considered the woman something of a friend. Had Miss Rose been pretending during their nightly neighbourly chats? Was Tiana just a pawn in some game between Rosalind and Facilier, a game she never agreed to play in the first place? Maybe she should have stuck around and demanded the woman explain herself. Miss Rode owed her at least that much after months of deceiving her. She swiped at the angry tears that she hadn't even realised had started to fall. It was imperative she not show any sign that anything was amiss. Given the time of day, her daddy was likely in there preparing for the night's dinner service. There had been an inkling of what was going on. China wasn't sure what he would do, or what Facilier would do in retaliation. Just get through tonight, she told herself. Take this prep time to think this through, to find another solution. She would figure out how to take care of the Shadow Man on her own, without Rosalind's help. When she walked inside, she spotted her daddy standing at the prep station. Her dark mood immediately lifted at the sight of him. Hey there, baby girl, he called, his ever-present smile as warm as a comforting hug. You back from seeing your friend? How is she? Hey, daddy, Tiana answered, then walked over and gave him a kiss on the cheek. Yes, I am. My friend, well, she waved that off. It's not important. It's good to see you, daddy. You saw me the day before yesterday. He laughed as he expertly diced pepper bells into uniform pieces. It's always good to see you, Tiana said. Something I've learned to never take for granted. That's a good lesson to learn, he said. He glanced over at her and frowned. You caught up in a storm or something, baby girl? Tiana looked down at her filthy clothes. Maybe she should have gone home first. Maybe Charlotte had the right idea. She needed a bath. I did, she said. The rain caught me on my way back to New Orleans. I'll go get cleaned up soon. She walked over to where her apron hung on a hook near the rear of the kitchen. But I should start on the gumbo before I do. Once it's cooking, Addie May can watch it while I run home and bathe. If she ever shows up, her daddy said. I haven't seen or heard from her all day. Shannon's fingers fumbled in the middle of tying her apron around her waist. That didn't sound like Addie May. I wonder if she fell ill, she murmured. She wished Addie May had a telephone, but Southern Bell's services were still a rarity in most households in the city. Let me get to this gumbo, and I'll see if I can find little Johnny Taylor to go check on her. She scrubbed the dirt from her hands and underneath her nails, then filled her daddy's big gumbo pot with water. Together they took it over to the cooker. She then made quick work of chopping up the remaining vegetables and adding them to the pot, along with chicken and andouille sausage. A now familiar sense of dread climbed upon Tiana's spine as she walked over to the pantry and moved the jar of green beans to the side. There behind it stood the small vial, filled with the potion Facilier had given her, next to the larger one he shoved upon her on the market. The potion meant to keep her daddy alive, next to the one he wanted her to put in all of her dishes to keep the dead deal going. Facilier doesn't have the powers you think he has. He's the one who's been manipulating you. Rosalind's earlier assertion pried to a question that had puzzled Tiana since Thursday night, and Facilier had suddenly changed the rules of their deal. She balked at the flimsy excuse he'd given her, as to why she needed to start adding the larger potion to all the dishes. Hadn't made sense, and he had never explained the reasoning behind it. He doesn't have the powers you think he has, Tiana whispered, as she continued to stare at the vials. Could it be? Could that be the one thing Rosalind had been honest about? For months, had Facilia used whatever was in that small bottle to control her, not her daddy? Had he convinced her to do his bidding, not with magic, but his words, his illusions? He was a master manipulator. She slid the beans back into place and left the potions, both of them, where they were. This batch would not include Facilia's contribution. You okay in there, baby girl? Chad cleared her throat. Yeah, daddy, I'll be right out. She left the pantry and returned to her gumbo, trying her hardest to quell her unease. She could very well risk everything she loved with the decision she'd just made, but this was more than just a gut feeling. She knew that Facilier deceived her more than once with his mind games, tricking her into thinking she was standing in the restaurant of her dreams, or that he'd harmed her parents. Well, her daddy was right there in the kitchen, alive and healthy. China went over to the cooker and lowered the fire under the pot. Daddy, I'm going to let this simmer for a bit while I look for little Johnny. I'll send him to check on Eddie May. She looked out and found little Johnny Taylor just a couple of blocks away from the restaurant. Tiana paid him a nickel to run over to Eddie May's house and return with words about why she had not shown up for work. When she returned to the restaurant, she found her daddy standing over the gumbo pot. "Isn't burning, is it?" Tiana asked. He looked over her shoulder, a sheepish grin on his handsome face. "No, you can't be stealing a taste." Tiana burst out laughing, something she couldn't imagine herself doing just an hour before. James sipped the brown liquid from a big cooking spoon. That's a good gumbo." He took another sip, then broke out in an awful, body-racking cough. Panic sent her running. "Daddy!" Tiana grabbed the spoon from him and tossed it aside. What had she done? Why had she taken a chance with the potion? "I'm fine." Her daddy pounded his chest, his smile returning. "Gumbo just went down the wrong pipe is all. That's what I get for sneaking a taste before it's done." Relief made his muscles weak. Her hand trembled as she covered his forehead with the palm. "You scared me." "Everything's okay. Don't get yourself so worked up, baby girl." He gestured towards the dining room. "Why don't you go out there and get the tables ready for tonight? And then you can head home to wash off and dress for the big Shrove Monday dinner crowds. I'll do the same once Caroline and Jody get here to watch the kitchen." Tiana nodded, but her body still hummed with anxiety. Something's not right. She felt it in her bones. She entered the dining room and went about straightening the tablecloths and centerpieces. Her hurt and anger came roaring back at the sight of the flowers Miss Rosa Lande, had given her for the restaurant. As she picked up some petals that had fallen onto the table, she had a mind to toss all the flowers away. Same with all the paintings hanging up around her. She looked over at the most recent one the woman had gifted her and blinked in confusion. She dropped the flower petals and raced to it, her mind unwilling to register what her eyes was clearly seeing. Or not seeing. Nearly all of the people were gone. Of the half-dozen colourful outfitted Mardi Gras Indians in the original portrait, only one remained. Janet slowly shook her head as she backed away from the painting. This couldn't be right. Someone was playing tricks on her again. Miss Tiana! Miss Tiana!" Little Johnny rushed through the restaurant's front entrance. "Miss Addie May is gone," he said. Icy fear wrapped her heart like a fist. "What do you mean she's gone? Was her mother at home?" Little Johnny nodded. "She was. Miss Phyllis and Addie May went to fetch some things at the market and was supposed to bring them back before leaving for work, but she never did. I went to the market, but nobody's there on the account of that green stuff growing everywhere." Tiana's rising panic refused to subside. "Thanks, little Johnny," Tiana told the boy, slipping him another nickel. Facilier was behind all of this. She had no doubt about it. "Daddy?" Tiana called as she entered the kitchen, but she found Caroline and Jody there instead. "Mr. James just left," Caroline said. "He said he'll be back in time for the dinner service." Tiana nodded. "Have either of you talked to Eddie May?" Both girls shook their heads. "Tia! Tia!" Charlotte burst through the swinging door into the kitchen. "Oh, Tia!" "Lottie, what's the matter?" Tiana captured her friend by her shoulders. She was still wearing her mud-stained trousers. "What's going on?" "It's Big Daddy. He's missing." Tiana's entire body went rigid, while Lottie shook like a leaf in the middle of a hurricane. "What do you mean? What makes you think he's missing?" "He's not home." "Maybe he's at the mill." "He's not." Lottie was shaking her head. "I just came from there. No one at the mill has seen him either." She walked back into the dining room, cradling her head in her hands. "Oh, Tia, I don't know what to do." Just then Naveen and Lewis arrived, both looking as if they actually came through a hurricane. Their clothes were covered in muck, and they reeked of dank, smelly rot. Naveen hooked her thumb towards the door. "I don't know what's going on out there, but it looks as though the swamp followed us back here. That slimy green sludge is everywhere, and the fog is worse than ever," Lewis piped up. Charlotte turned to them. "Naveen, have you seen Big Daddy?" "Mr. LeBeouf?" "Yes, no one knows where he is, not even his closest friends. Big Daddy would never just leave without telling a single soul where he's going. Alpha said he's been gone since this morning. Isn't like Big Daddy to leave without saying something to anybody." "Don't get yourself worked up," Tiana told her, running a hand up and down her friend's arm to soothe her, even though her own nerves felt as though they were twisting and tying into knots. "What's that?" Charlotte pointed to tiny specks of dirt that dotted the tablecloth. Tiana went to dust them away, and dozens of bugs took flight. She screeched, running from the table, but the bugs were suddenly everywhere, swarming in the same way the mosquitoes are attacked on Saturday. "It's Rosie's flowers." The wind's insect flew out of the centre of each bud and whizzed around the dining room like a tornado. Terror shot through Tiana as she thought about the mosquitoes at Congo Square. She scrambled into the kitchen. "Shut everything off," Tiana called out to Caroline and Jody. "Just shut off the stove and leave that food there. Get out, get out."